Much, Stefania, for coming here today. I've been chasing you for a long time. And when I started with this, serving the community of immigrants, more than five people said to me, "You need to meet Stefania. You need to meet Stefania." And this was 3 years ago, and I was like, "Who is this Stefania?" And we got connected a year ago, and I am so happy that we finally get to do this.
Mm.
And you can introduce us to subject that I am not familiar with, and I am here to learn. And in the process, I would like my community also to learn about this important topic, so that if we're empowered, then we can empower immigrants without legal status, so that we know what to say to them. So everybody, thank you so much for being here. Hopefully you're able to make it. It's lunchtime in California. And so I would like to introduce you, Stefania Hermosillo. Do I pronounce it correctly?
Close enough, close enough.
Close enough, right? She is an amazing human being. I have heard so much about her, and I've talked to her twice or three times so far. And it's just her energy is amazing, and her knowledge in the topic of immigrants with without legal status is vast. And she works for the Immigrant Rising. She is the community education lead, and she's gonna give us a lot of information about what she knows. So we're gonna poke her head, her brain today. Thank you for being here, Stefania. I give you the floor.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. And it's such a pleasure to be with you all today. I get to do this and as a job, and it's incredible because it's something that I did for free for a long time. And to know that now I get to bring this to you all as part of my something that I get to work in really is a dream fulfilled. And that's my commitment, that people can accomplish their dreams. Anybody can accomplish their dreams. And that includes people who don't have legal status in this country. That includes peoples, and people are people, right? And so people who don't have legal status are included in accomplishing our dreams. I was personally born in Mexico, came to the US when I was 6, and for a long time knew that I didn't have legal status. And it was until I graduated high school when I got the impact it has, the structural impact it has to navigate life constantly without legal status. And that's when I got, oh, wow, this is an issue. This is a problem that even if I want to achieve something, it occurs, it seems like my status is an impediment constantly. And I started to get involved, started to meet people who said, hey, there's resources out there. There's information out there. And starting to have people, just like what we're doing with you right now, which is we're telling you, yeah, there's actually info, there's actually resources. I had people do that with me. And out of that, I began to then, travel to the capital, like Sacramento, travel to Washington, D.C., began to learn that a difference can be made. And it takes energy, it takes people, it takes time, but a difference can be made. And I got to be involved now with the difference makers, people who are saying, we know there's a problem, but we want to make a difference now in that area. So I've gotten an opportunity to meet some of the people that have created the fact that we have DACA in the United States, right? They were the ones that initiated that, the California Dream Act, so many reforms we've seen for immigrants. I've been able to be around people who've been able to really accomplish that for our community. And now it's a matter of letting you know, hey, this information's out there, these resources are out there. And at Immigrants Rising, which is the organization I work with, part of what we're committed to is that you're able to thrive, again, independent of the circumstances, that the circumstances don't dictate what you can or cannot do. It really comes down to you. And we are agents of our lives, and we can choose the lives we live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you all a video that I think encompasses part of what Immigrants Rising does. And this is the story of a woman who's been part of Immigrants Rising in some of our programs, and who has been able to move beyond some of those no's and no's and no's to achieve what she has always wanted, which was actually to graduate from university here in the United States. And she did so. So I'm going to go ahead and display that right now. And this is a video of Maritza, and let's watch it.
My name is Maritza. I moved to the US when I was 17. In order to deal with all of this, with the incredible, culture shock that I went through, not knowing the language, just feeling lost, I started drawing. It was unsafe to be undocumented outside of my house, and it was unsafe to be gay at home. So mostly I was just quiet. I learned English and I got my high school diploma. I spent a lot of time in community college, and then I hit a wall. I remember the first time I ever applied to school, and I sat in front of the computer and I just felt like the fear just running from my chest all around, and I felt like I was just choking up and I was all by myself and not knowing. I really had very little support. And I started searching online, and that's the first time I ever made contact with E4FC. They offered a legal intake service where I could find out my immigration options. I stayed in touch with the legal advocate that did my intake. She asked, well, how can I support you? And I said, well, I just want to know if there are other undocumented students interested in going to college. Are there any more people like me? And she said, actually, yes. And that's what we're all about.
You see me okay? Hi. How are you? Alice is here and Isabella's here.
She told me about this group for undocumented students that aged out of DACA.
Oh, okay. Since I'm speaking, huh? Yes.
This group became sort of like a peer support group where, yes, we could exchange resources, but we were also exchanging stories.
I applied to one fellowship. I haven't gotten any news.
It was really empowering and really inspiring.
You got it.
I would come and say, I filled out the application, and there was a yay, yes, yeah, you did it, you can do it. The letters of acceptance just started coming. I couldn't believe it, and it felt like I could breathe again.
And it's really about that. It's about my hopes are greater than my fears. And then what do you hope for, right? And many people here in the United States, especially people who don't have legal status, there's a few things that we hope, many things we hope for. Obviously, we came for a better life. We came escaping problems back in the home countries. We came seeking new opportunities, better opportunities, and that our hopes are greater than our fears. And it is said that, in this country, we can all accomplish the American dream. And I'm personally finding that American dream starts within me. It starts within me, and also America encompasses an entire continent, right? It encompasses South America, North America. But here in the United States, like this a dream of what we can accomplish here in the United States. You know, the United States is a mix of multiple people from so many different backgrounds. And it does take something to find ourselves in this country where we can say, okay, well, what's available for me in this big old bowl of, you know, soup, or in this salad bowl? What's possible for what I would like to accomplish? And, you know, impediments that keep people from accomplishing certain things can be status. And sometimes it's access to a lawyer, access to information. So there's a great, great resource. And we find it to be one of the best resources for people who are looking for legal support. Specifically, if you're like, I need to understand, do I even have an immigration option? What are my immigration options? That resource is actually a website, and it's called immigrationlawhelp.org. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again so you can see this resource, immigrationlawhelp.org. And this website, what you do is you put in your zip code. And once you put in your zip code, it'll then give you a list of organizations in your area that provide different legal support at minimal to no cost. So in this case, for example, the Community Legal Service in East Palo Alto provides adjustment of status support, asylum applications, consular processing, deferred action. Let me go ahead and zoom in, because I know that when we share our screen, it can be pretty small. So this is just what you can see here. What I did is I put in the zip code earlier. I then go here and it's a list of organizations. And right, I can new search. I can do a new search for a different organization. I can this time put, you know, 95307. That's closer to the Central Valley region. And then takes me to Turlock. Takes me to the Modesto office, people with U visas, Violence Against Women's Act. And then what people can do is then just make some phone calls, call up some of these folks, schedule meetings, schedule appointments. I have a friend whose family was victim of of violence. Essentially, there was an assault made on one of the family members, and the whole family was able to adjust status and have and benefited from the U visa, because there was a police report made, and then this student, right, my friend, found out that her family could be eligible given what one of the family members had endured. She was like, oh, I think we can be eligible for a U visa. And so she spoke to the key person, one of the people, right, and then presented her case. And they said, actually, you might have a case. They went through with the paperwork, they presented the case, and she has legal status, and the rest of her family has legal status. The U visa was a direct pathway to residency. You know, it took time, it took a few years, but it was a pathway. And now, do we wish harm upon anyone? Obviously not. Except when these things happen, there are rights. People do have rights. And it includes, you know, following up with like the police, right? To mention that something has happened to somebody so that can be recorded, and then it can lead to pathways. But then it also takes then following up on an organization and saying, hey, I would like to know this information, right? I would like to know from the Social Justice Collaborative, like, do I qualify for anything? So that's important to know about some of the resources, right, for legal support. And you must check if you're eligible for something in terms of legality constantly, because it's ever changing, laws change. And don't listen to the neighbor about these things. I know that in the Latin culture, right, among some of my community, it's like, no, I'm not gonna do that because my neighbor told me this. Well, your neighbor isn't the person to believe about these things. That is not the person to believe necessarily. The neighbor, while a great form of input is not the person to believe for these situations, because every immigration case is completely unique. Another thing that is very important for our community is generating income. It's fundamental. And there tends to be this narrative, right? This, what we call the story that is told. Some people listening might be familiar with this idea that people tell a story about things. Well, there's a story that's told at the individual level. There's also stories that are told at a community level. And there are stories that are told in a society. There's a certain story that is told about who an immigrant is in this country. And then there's a story that is told about who an immigrant with no legal status is in this country, that kind of paints a brush over what it really is. And part of that story that is told has this background that people who don't have legal status are, you know, the victims of a society, or are, there's a sense of they, you know, are on the bottom end of, you know, revenue making, are not being paid. There's that part of the narrative. And while that is definitely something that does happen, it's not the full picture. So what ends up happening is people who don't even know that something else is possible don't ever seek something else. They didn't even know that something else was possible. But something else that's very possible for anyone independent of immigration status is to start a business, especially in certain states where it is legal to start a business with an individual tax identification number. You can actually open up a business, you can get a business license only with an individual tax identification number. And the way to learn the most about that, if you've had a business idea, if you've been like, I'd like to start my own consulting firm, I'd like to start my own business practice, I'd like to be an independent contractor for some position, those are options that are available to people. Again, independent of immigration status. And the way to find out about that, if you just go on immigrantsrising.org, which is our key website, I'm going to go ahead and display that one now. So immigrantsrising.org, these are some of the students from our organization. And then here in our little hover, there's what we call Get Your Undocu Hustle On. And it says that the site is loading. Get Your Undocu Hustle On is a website, that curriculum that walks people through the business idea up to actually choosing the business structure and having that business be a reality. So the way to get started is you just say, all right, let me get started with this. You can select a language. So we have multiple languages. We have it available in Spanish as well, and other languages as well. And then you put what path is right for you. And there's little clips around, okay, well, how do I know? Well, should I do independent contractor or should I become a business owner? I don't know. What if you've never done that before? What if you don't know what that means? Well, you can watch a little clip, right? And then get started with your path that you'd like. And there's different topics like taxes. How do you do your taxes? We know that people who don't have legal status pay taxes. We know that happens. Anybody can pay taxes in the United States. You can do so with an individual tax identification number. An individual tax identification number is available to people who don't have legal status. So very much people who don't have legal status contribute immensely to taxes here in the United States. So there's topics about things like that as well, which again, come with, sometimes you've got to find out from the who's. Well, now we can actually publicly be aware and informed by accessing this website, theundocuhustle.org, so that you can be accomplishing your dreams, right? Introduction to taxes, individual tax ID number, employer ID number. Let's go ahead and I want to watch this clip because I think this one's important about, you know, how do you actually get an employer ID number? Let me make sure that this is optimized for video clip. Yes, it is. All right, let's watch 2 minutes.
So now, in addition to the Social Security number or the ITIN, an individual may choose to apply for what's called an employer identification number or an EIN. The EIN, also known as a federal tax identification, is a unique 9-digit number assigned by the IRS and is used to identify a business entity. Similar in purpose to the Social Security number assigned to individuals, EINs are used by employers, sole proprietors, corporations, partnerships, nonprofit organizations, trust and estates, government agencies, certain individuals, and other business entities. And you can actually use a Social Security number or an ITIN to get an EIN. How do you determine if you need to get an EIN? So basically, you need to answer yes to any of the questions that are listed on the slide. So if you're interested in hiring employees as an independent contractor or as a business owner, then you need to get an EIN. If you're operating your business as a corporation or a partnership, then you would get an EIN. And some of the other points listed on here. Nonprofit organizations definitely have to get an EIN. So how do you apply for an EIN? You can apply for an EIN online, by fax, or mail, depending on how soon you need to use the EIN. Applying for an EIN is a free service offered by the IRS, so definitely be on the lookout for websites that charge for this service. So in order to apply online, it's probably the best way to apply for an EIN online. You can visit the IRS website and use the EIN application. Once the application is completed, the information is validated during the online session, and an EIN is issued immediately. So very effective way to get an EIN if you.
I'm going to go ahead and pause it because that gives you a sense of what these videos sound like and look like. That was again for an EIN, but also we have one on ITIN. Maybe you don't know what it takes to get an individual tax identification number. Well, what's the value? Why get one? What does it mean to have an individual tax identification number? You can watch all of those already content, fully thorough, developed within this website, undocuhustle.org, because again, we're thriving. We're already doing this. Again, just some of this was like underground, or you had to know by the who's who. Well, now it's public info, public content, and we can have it be much more accessible, much more available to different communities, right, and to people. So that's what's exciting about that material and being able to have that available online. And the last thing I'm personally going to talk to before we hear from our next speaker, and if I see Naid has any questions, you can ask them in a minute, is college and university access. I just spoke to a student yesterday who says, because I don't have legal status, I can't go to school. There's an issue with configuring language in that way because it's not actually accurate. And specifically, he was talking, I cannot go to school because they're charging me a lot of money to go to school. Except he's saying it's because he's undocumented. What ends up happening is I can't resolve the undocumentation right now, right? Because there's no pathway for a lot of people. So then that means I can't go to school. It creates a conflict between these two things. I'm undocumented, and because of that, I can't go to school. When they're actually independent of each other. Yes, you don't have legal status, and school is charging the amount that it's charging. Okay, well, about legal status, maybe that can't get resolved right now, but can we resolve the amount that you're being charged? And the answer is mostly yes. There are certain criteria that can be met that, if met, can actually really reduce the cost of school for people who are going to school here in the United States, even if they don't have legal status. So school can cost as low as, community college is very economical. It's $40, $100, $300 for classes versus $3,000 because people met the criteria for being able to have school at a lower cost here in California. How do you know what the criteria is? How do you know what it takes to actually have your school paid for, right? If we can't do anything about status, well, can I do something about school? And usually the answer is yes, you can do something about your academics. And the way to access that information is also through our website. We have a lot of resources on immigrantsrising.org. And in that same website, there is just a vast amount of resources around college access. You just go into our site. This is something to explore, right? Let me see, am I displaying this one or am I displaying some other one? Let me see. This right here. And you just go to college, paying for college, right? Money for college. And this is something, this website again is one to play with to find a lot of info. You can find list of undergraduate scholarships, list of graduate scholarships, fellowship programs. Fellowship programs often include receiving money and getting paid. Like actually not getting paid, but you get a grant for your participation in a fellowship program. And so those are options that are available, checklists for being able to check things off and say, okay, I can qualify for that. So that is part of what would also be important. So we've just touched on legality, immigrationlawhelp.org, developing a business on docuhustle.org, and then now college, right? And being able to earn a degree and learn a lot of information at a low cost by meeting the criteria. Those are the 3 points that we've just touched on. I do want to hear from Sinaid if she has any questions so far from what I've said.
Wow. My mind is like, boom. That was a lot of information, but it was amazing. I had no idea. I wanted to come clean mind, and I did not do any research because I wanted to hear from you. And what I got out of it is you basically changed my idea of what an immigrant without legal status means. You just completely shifted it for me. And I just want to wrap it up and I mean, like, say my take on it.
Yeah.
So that to kind of summarize what I heard.
Very good.
Points that I heard. So the video made me cry. I was like, where's my tissue? I didn't prepare any tissue. It made me cry because of the similarity of what we go through when we come to US. And it doesn't matter whether you have a legal status or not. I could recognize that fear, that uncertainty, even though I came with a green card and I was in constant fear, like maybe they're going to deport me, even though I had it. So I cannot even imagine the stress level and the fear that people without legal status go through, because for me it was horrible. That's why I do what I do, because of those feelings that you have in the beginning. And that made me cry, because beneath it all, whether you have a legal status or not, we all go through, language. She was struggling with the language, and we do, right? Even I came, with good English, but I still struggled, like, in understanding, the language of California and the cues and the cultural, all that. And then finding a job. It was, how do I find a job? How do I qualify? I come from an Africa country, right? An African country that's not recognized. And then the support system, my support system was gone completely. And that is the most important part, is support system. If you don't have it, you can't thrive. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether you have legal status or not, or if you have a job or not. Without that, it's impossible to thrive. Yeah. And I learned, this was like, I didn't know that it was like, oh my God, like seeing it through that was amazing. Thank you for sharing that video. And the other thing I learned is that I didn't know that immigrants without legal status, they can open business, work, and they do taxes and all this amazing stuff. And I was like, what? Estefania, are you sure? It came as a surprise, and this is really amazing. Yeah. And I work in this field, and I didn't know about this. Imagine how many undocumented immigrants are out there. don't know that they can do this. So
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that, because me and my community who are listening to this, and then who are also going to listen to this recording, will be empowered because of this information. One thing that stood out to me was don't listen to the neighbor. I told you that I have a book coming up. I had this exact thing mentioned because at work as a court interpreter, I met this guy once. He was in trouble because he listened to his friends who said, even though he knew, are you sure this is it? And I advised that no, do not listen to other people. You know, you have to verify. My husband always says, trust but verify. You have to verify. You cannot just listen to people and do it, otherwise you get in trouble. So that was really amazing, because even in my community, people don't verify. They listen to their neighbors, they listen to other people, and they get there. So in the college, that was really big for me. Like even if you don't have the status, you're saying that's a separate issue. And while you're figuring that out, what a gift to go to school and then get your degree and then fellowship and get that experience. And maybe by the time you sort the thing, the legal status, done, you're already ready to go for the American dream. So thank you so much. I really got a lot out of that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for that. I so appreciate you just sharing back the value of what I just said. It's amazing. Yes, people will be, I can't do this because, and it's those becauses, because that because puts us trying to resolve that. I can't accomplish my dream because Well, now my attention is to that because. My attention is there when in fact the thing to have attention on is the dream, and go for that and play for that while the because is getting resolved, and status is not stagnant and life is not stagnant. We have also had, we did a project called Outside the US, and Life Outside the US, and we talked about people who don't have legal status that moved away from the US and really saw, well, where can I accomplish my dream? What if my dream is beyond this country? And what if, this was a life experience, and really reimagining for people what's possible for them, that in living the lives that they've wanted to live and making some of these choices. So it's important for people to bring attention to that dream at the end of the day. Keep your eye on the light, right? On that vision, and be about that and having that. And the one thing I will mention that's really important around about people starting their own businesses, there is in this docu-hustle, the laws. It's important to kind of have a grasp of the laws and what allows that to be possible, so that, and inform yourself by reading that or by watching those videos. For anybody who listens to this, take a moment to listen to that, and how it is that is within the law that people can start their own businesses, can be independent contractors, can hire employees. Even if I myself don't have legal status, I can start a business, I can hire employees, I can have and develop all of this. And it's distinct from working. While it's earning a living, it's like you can't employ somebody who doesn't have legal status, like as an employee. And you actually, and independent contracting, if you think about this, Sinai, if you hire a contractor, you ask them for their business license. For their W-9, you're not asking for what's your social security number, and because you're not hiring them as an employee. So there's a lot of independent contractors all over, and it's a very natural aspect. And again, we're just saying, well, it's also available to people who don't have legal status. You can start your own company, and go make a company to company contract, and and you hired yourself in your own company.
That's amazing. And this is very amazing, and a lot of people don't know this, I bet.
And a lot of people come to
that fear.
Yes.
So empowerment is necessary, which is why we agreed to do this. Empower. Unless you are empowered, you wouldn't be able to, go outside of your fear. I like the way you said the because outside of that. to look for other resources.
Yeah.
And I love that you said, you know, I love the website that you shared. That will be very good resource for people to go and, you know, just spend a lot of time there and realizing what's my, you know, what rights do I have within, you know, within that. And also you shared the lawyers they can access to.
That's right.
They're not sure. And I also like the story you shared about the woman, you know, that had this incident. I can't even imagine, right? And if that happened and you're scared and you're like, what if this woman just said, I don't have legal status, and yeah, I'm just not going to tell anyone. We just lost, you know, a potential that could be something someday, right?
I mean, they're now starting their own business line, and they're doing so great, and their whole family has adjusted. And again, it wasn't ever inside of that. It was just to take the action to move forward on that case. And some people don't move these cases forward, and you do have a case, and you can, and it's possible, you know?
Right. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And that was my take on it. And I know I'm still processing. I heard a lot, but those are the ones that I got, and I'm going to listen to the recording again. But without taking too much time, I don't have a question. I would like to hear from
Eloghosa. Let's do that. Let's transition over to Eloghosa. I'll just say a few words about Eloghosa myself. And Eloghosa can add to what I say, but Eloghosa, I met through one of our programs that we have here at Immigrants Rising, and they're a pre-med student and have actually been working, have been in partnership with a nonprofit organization serving people who don't have insurance in accessing vaccines right now during COVID and even beyond, a lot of medical support and support in the medical field. And so I just personally thank Eloghosa for being available today to bring the resources and highlight the resources that she has to offer and for our community, and being an essential piece. I mean, probably through your whole lifetime, you will be an essential piece, but definitely right now during this time when we've been sheltered in place, when we've been in a pandemic, just the kind of passion you have for this is so important. So thank you. Let's have you go ahead and share what you'd like to share.
Thank you, Estefania. Hi, everybody. Like she said, my name is Eloghosa. A little backstory about me is I'm from Nigeria. I came to the United States when I was 15, right? I have a brother here, a biological brother who was adopted by an American family. So he has status, right? And I don't. So I could compare and contrast between like our pathway to medical school, right? And like see the policies available for us. And I really like when Estefania talked about like college students, how you could pay for college, because we're in a budget, right? So we have to like work through all of that, right? Because I'm pre-med, I'm looking for ways to like help the community that involves health. And like I recently have like partnered with like Prep Medical and like, which is like Kaiser and UCLA, and it's basically helping the undocumented community like have information about where they could get healthcare. And right now, presently, I work with Latino Leadership Council, and the project at the moment is getting the COVID vaccine out there and like being aware of like the risk you're in, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation and like distrust of like the health community, right? So I'm just gonna share like the little flyer we have right now on COVID-19 in like the Latino population and Spanish speaking, right? So we talk about like the facts and like safety, and you don't have to pay for this vaccine. You don't even have to schedule your meeting. You just have to like call us or like email us and we'll schedule it for you. You just gotta show up and get your vaccine, because we know it could be like super confusing and like scary and all of that. So this is just a way to like make the process a little easier, right? So this is the project we're working on right now. And like these flyers are everywhere. We do like door to door, like we do door to door. We talk about like the vaccines and everything, right? So this is like present, right? This is recent. Like before that, growing up here by myself because my parents are in Nigeria, I had to figure out like a bunch of ways to get healthcare, right? Dental, right? Because I had to get glasses. I had to like get a bunch of stuff that I didn't need back there in Nigeria or I didn't have access to. So for healthcare, what really helped me was like I used WellSpace, right? And like I didn't have no insurance, I didn't have none of that. And like it took me a while to find this place, right? I had to like make connections and they're like, okay, you don't have to have like status to use this healthcare, right? And it was like $20 without insurance for like every visit, right? For like dental and stuff under the age of 21. And like you could get like perinatal care, you could get women's care, right? They have like different segments, which are really helpful, right? And like since I'm a college student, most of the information I have is like around like college. So when you talk about like mental health, right? I know a lot of colleges offer free mental health, like Sierra College. A lot of UCs offer free mental health, which is just amazing because I feel like it's like a very underrepresented section of like the healthcare system, right? So we just like figure out different resources available for us. And right now I'm looking towards like learning more about like Kaiser and like UC Davis medical care because I know they're branching out, like talking about like helping the undocumented community and how it affects healthcare and stuff, right? So yeah, that's basically what the whole like my work is about for the last few years, right? And it's like it's very personal to me because I want to go into healthcare, right? So and like you learn about like the policies available for undocumented students and like you know like these policies are personal to you because immigration isn't something that's like abstract. No, it's something like it's in your neighborhood, it's in your family, right? So you have to find a way to like be beneficial for you and your family. So yeah, that's basically it.
Wow, that's incredible. That's
Yeah.
really incredible. And Iligosa, and I'm gonna butcher
Eloghosa.
it again. I'm sorry.
Eloghosa.
Eloghosa. That's a beautiful name.
Thank
And
you.
I can't even imagine what you've been through. You know, being young and you had to explore and you had to navigate all the system that's not mapped out, you know, and that's my inspiration for today, you know, that tells me what is a human being is capable of doing in the face of difficulty, you know, and in the face of you know um, uh, no paperwork or no nothing. I can't even imagine. And I complained a lot when I first came, even with a green card, because it is hard. The US is hard to navigate for anyone. And for you
Yes.
to go through it and to thrive and to go get your education so that you can empower others. And now you're out there empowering other immigrants who might go through the same thing. That's my inspiration for the whole week, for the whole month. I have a lot of respect for you because it takes a lot. It takes a lot to be powerful when nothing is agreeable in your surrounding. Thank you for sharing all that. So the only question I have is, let me see. I was not clear about the mental health. You
Okay.
said some colleges have services for undocumented immigrants.
Mhm.
So you mentioned a little bit about Kaiser, and then there was a university you mentioned that
Mhm.
are thinking about expanding their
Mhm.
services to um, make it accessible.
Yeah.
So are they ready? Like, for example, if I don't have documents, and where would I go if I have some mental issues? Because that's very important, right? We all go through it.
Yes.
We all go through mental health issues at some
Mhm.
point.
Yeah, that's a super great question because, like, as an immigrant, you go through culture shock, imposter syndrome, and it's like you need these resources. Like, I came to the United States without my parents, and I was 15, and I had to like figure that out, right? But like, you just have to see the resources around you, right? So
Yeah.
for me, like, because this is like based on my experience. I know my college, I go to a community college right now, Sierra
Right.
College. They have free mental health, free mental health for its student, all his students, despite status, it's free. You don't have to pay for it at all. So I know Sierra College, I know ARC offers those type of resources, and like I'm transferring to UC Davis in the fall. So I've been talking to their AB 540 Undocumented Student Center about like the resources available, and like they also have free mental care. And I know like it's not just in California, a lot of like places in Florida, universities have free medical healthcare and mental health care for its students. For UCs, you do have to pay like insurance with your tuition, but it's included, right? So like if you get like financial aid, most of it covers like the insurance, right? I'm talking like you could get new glasses, which are really expensive without insurance, like dental. So it's all included in the tuition, but the mental health service itself, right? You have different segments of the campus, and they have their own like mental counselors that talk through like problems with you, right? So I know a lot of colleges have those resources available for you, right? So talk to your counselors, right? They will help you, right? Because
Right.
this is something like a lot of people advocate for, right? So yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much. And this is for college students. This is
Yes,
very
college
important
students.
for them to know. And maybe Stefania, if you know anything about that, like for um, anybody who's not in college also, maybe you
Yes,
can give us some idea where if there is any services available with it, because that's key. That's key, like
totally.
mental health. Yeah.
Totally, totally. And part of why the benefit of being in a school system, by the way, like Eloghosa's mentioning, there
Yeah.
are many services. So that's for people who would be within school. There's two other services that I'd like to talk about. There's one that we offer, we Immigrants Rising, we offer. This is mental health support where you are paired with a therapist, one-on-one. We do have a waiting list. We have therapists who are willing to provide pro bono therapy support, pro bono therapy. So we do require that the therapists are certified. They go through a training so that they're very mindful of the experiences of people who don't have legal status. They don't say things like, oh, where are you traveling to this summer? Are you going to Cancun? Like just certain things so that they are really mindful of who they're speaking to. And so we provide certain training that's on our website. If you just go directly on our website, and it is for people who are over 18. And I don't remember the cutoff age, but it's around 30s, in their 30s. And so that's one of our services. Now, that's a great service. Again, there's a waiting line for it. So I want to provide you all with even more services. And so this is an amazing website. This is called Informed Immigrant.
Informed.
And an
Yeah.
informed immigrant has an immense amount of resources around any topic. I went ahead and researched mental health. Taking care of yourself and loved ones is what came up in their resource library. and there's therapy. All of these are optional. Trevor Lifeline, Muslim Mental Health Professional Directory, Telehealth Mental Health Programs. This is for Chicago. Immigrant Child Health. This is our, we're having support groups. We actually have designed support groups for the Undocu API community, the Undocu Black community. We've designed for LGBTQ community. I mean, we've designed multiple support groups. They're about 6 weeks long. We are wrapping up the first cohort of support groups, and we're going to be opening up these support groups. Again, the age is not capped. Anybody from any age above 18. We had one 17-year-old join, but you know, like not too young, just for their own support. And API, brown girl therapy. So all of these would be great places to acquire mental health support. United We Dream.
That's amazing, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Therapy for Black Men.
Wow.
South Asian. Yeah, the Therapy for Latinx.
That's very useful. And the category, I love the way they put it there, because you can see yourself in there.
Yeah,
That's
like
amazing.
we can even just pick one of these. So this is recommendations for psychological practice. This is with undocumented immigrants in California, taking into account hostile immigration enforcement and environment for immigrants. Provides these recommendations for practice to mental health. This is what you're talking about, like the fear of deportation that's constant. That, you know, it's all of that. So then they have some recommendations for the community, even reading on some of this material. So yeah, so some of these recommendations. This was a pretty lengthy article. I would probably, personally, I would definitely sign up for Immigrants Rising's listserv. Even if you end up on the waiting list, that's like an immediate action someone can take. Sometimes it's like, okay, who do I call, right? Where do I go? And so under our programs, services, mental health connector. And then there's, are you interested in receiving? And are you interested in providing? Anybody here who is a mental health therapist, or if you know of anybody, we do constantly are looking for people who would be interested in providing this pro bono service. And then if people are interested in receiving, they just go here, they fill out a questionnaire, and then they're gonna receive an email. And this is one of the best ways. Just click on this, fill out the questionnaire, and that'll have them sign up for being in our queue as somebody who we know is interested. It helps us a lot if we have, you know, 300 people in our queue when we're seeking funding or we're seeking support. We know, hey, look, there's a demand for this. So if you are interested, this is something you can definitely do. This is for California folks, that service in particular. So that's some of the services we have.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. And I'm assuming suicide prevention is also part of it, or?
Yes, yeah, anything. I mean, if the person is definitely very close, I mean, it's like has a plan for all of that, and is, you know, and depending on the state of mind they're in, there's like calling a hotline, like just a hotline for any person.
Perfect. Yeah.
That's the best way to go. But if they can't, we will have clients who are having suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. That is, suicide prevention is part of it. Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much for enlightening us on that, because I was wondering, oh my God, that's an important piece, and I'm so glad you shared the resources. I have one more question, but before I do, I know, let me give an option for other people to ask a question. Do we have any question?
I have a
Hi,
question.
Oh, okay.
you go first.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Marco. Well, first of all, I didn't know, I learned something today. I mean, I didn't know there was so many resources available for undocumented immigrants and all online. That's amazing. I really didn't know. But let me play the part of the devil's advocate a little bit. So how many of these advices and these online resources are, let's say, how much is 100% legal and how much is, let's say, not illegal but legally disputed? So it's something that could be taken to court because it's not exactly, it's in a gray zone. And in particular, like an example, and maybe that's not a good example because maybe I didn't know that that was legal, that the EIN number, I didn't know that you can get an EIN number without having a social security number. That's really something. So is it like, for example, in this example in particular, my question was generic, but in this example in particular, the EIN number, is it in a gray zone just because the form doesn't ask for it, or is it totally legal to start a business without social security number and without having to prove the legal citizen, legal status of immigrant?
Yeah, I love that question, Marco. That is such a great question. In California, it varies by state. Not every state allows people to acquire a business license with using an individual tax identification number. In California, it's completely legal. It's actually within there. A law has passed. It's within the bounds of the law that people who don't have a social security number can open a business and acquire an EIN using an individual tax identification number. Because people can get business licenses. Actually, people can be certified as therapists. People can be certified as accountants under a law that passed here in California, and multiple other states have passed legislation that is similar to that. So as we've there's been an immigrant movement for many years, and that has actually been one of the wins, that actually is now currently legal and totally within the bounds of the law. It is not like just like it doesn't ask for that. It was by design. That was a great question, but it's not every state.
Okay.
And in other states, people kind of are looking to California and they're advocating for that. Like, for example, in-state tuition, like what I was saying, that in California, you can qualify to pay for school at a much lower cost. That's not the case in Arizona. They were actually, in the coming days, we're waiting to hear on what the verdict is. California has had in-state tuition since 2001, but not in Arizona. So Arizona is currently advocating for in-state tuition. So there's constant advocacy and push for shifts in legislation happening around the country.
So in this online resources, they will be, let's say, state clearly, like depending on which state you are, you have this options or this option.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was great. Great question. It is a little like, wait, what? I know.
Yeah, well, that was a great question. Thank you, Marco. And so the last question I have, and I know we're going a little bit out of time, but maybe briefly you can mention that, just because in my mind, like, for example, I got hurt at work, or something happened to me and I need to go to the hospital right now. So what resources are available to me? Can I call 911 and be taken to any hospital without jeopardizing, my safety if I am a legal, I don't have legal status in US?
Yeah. Eloghosa, do you happen to know about that?
From like the information I have right now, if you do go to like the ER in certain ERs, right, like they can't just dispose your status like that, right, to anyone. So you're safe, right, to get the care you need, right? But like for me, like when I got hurt from like it was like a dog bite. So I just like it was morning, drove to like my nearest well space, and I was like, this is like my injury, and they were like, okay, and like 20 minutes later, and it was like super short wait, and they, you know, took care of it, bandaged it up, and like they were like, okay, antibiotics. These are like you could pick up the medical, like it was expensive. I didn't have to pay for nothing. It was like super, like it was like $20, and that was it. And like to go get a COVID too free, like they have resources available, right? But if you do go to the ER, which I'm not familiar with, but like I don't, from the information I've gathered so far, don't like they're not supposed to tell your status to anybody.
That's good. Thank you. That's good to know, because that is important as well, because our well-being is important, and we can work, we can do all this stuff, and someday we might get hurt or we might feel sick, and it's important that we have access. Thank you so much, Eloghosa. Eloghosa, I'm butchering your name. I'm very bad with names, so forgive me. It takes me a long time to remember names and to say it correctly.
That's okay.
Anyways, thank you so much, both of you, for coming. Really, you have no idea how much I have learned personally, and how much you know, my community is gonna benefit from this, because this is like what the whole time you guys were talking about. What? I didn't know that. So thank you for giving your time. I know you guys are very busy to come and talk to our community.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. It's been a pleasure, and just let us know. We'll
Okay.
have the next one.
All right, and hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Yes.
In person, Estefania.
That's right.
Oh, and I just wanted to say to Eloghosa, if you want, we have also a community, a Facebook private community. It's called the Empowered Immigrant, United by the American Dream. Every time you were talking, I was thinking to invite you to go there. You can take if you are interested, you can take my my email or my phone number from Estefania, and just let me know interested. Then I can send you the link, because you would be more empowered with us, and you would empower us too, because your knowledge and your everything you've been through is a gift to us all. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm definitely interested in that, especially if you have any college students.
Yeah,
because that is like where like I know more about. So yeah.
Thank you so much, both. Have a nice lunch, I hope.
Yes. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Have a wonderful day.